Hi everyone, hello and welcome to the Legacy Tree interview. Today here is Elena with you and Johnathan Dale from the Legacy Tree Sustainable Society portal. Hi everyone.
Hi.
So how are you doing, Johnny?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thank you very much for asking.
I'm happy that we could connect and we can finally ask Johnny some really sacred questions, and we are looking forward to hearing the answers from the deep of the heart. As you may know, Johnathan Dale is cooperating with Legacy Tree since 2020. So he's planting the legacy trees with us. Johnny has got a croft in Scotland at the Lake Erebol. Loch Erebol is the correct name, right? I'm giving the word to Johnny right now. And my first question, Johnny, where are you from originally, and where from do you have this love for the croft and nature? Like, how did it evolve?
Where I was born is actually Glasgow, but I've commuted from Glasgow to the Croft since a small child. And my first love of the Croft was being taken there, family holidays from Glasgow to the Croft. And I loved the journey and the scenery on the way up in the car when I was taken by my Papa Donald, I called him. So when I was taken by my papa up and my grandmother to we had family holidays up at the Croft. So I was taken from Glasgow up to the Croft, and the scenery and the journey up was just every child's dream, to see Loch Ness and to see. I didn't see the Loch Ness monster, but I always looked out hard as a wee boy to see the Loch Ness monster.
So great childhood memories, yeah, and also
Yeah.
this type of close connection to the nature as well, yeah. Why did you decide to plant trees, Johnathan?
That's a kind of complicated one. It's a long story. I'll try and keep it shorter. The government policy was changing in crofting tenure. Before it was about having cows and sheep and hens and animals, and then in recent times it's changed. Crofting has changed into a more sustainable, a more sort of environmental, a more sort of to plant trees and to grow horticulture or to grow veg. I always done that. I always grew veg in the past, but it's changed in many ways in recent times to a more wider, a more far out, more outlook, rather than the sort of farming sector of animals. Just having animals was called crofting. It's now moved into trees and sustainable living and having huts and having wooden huts for people to stay in. So it's now changed into a more wider and more wider outlook and sustainability.
I see.
Which is good.
Yeah, so it's now like the whole world is moving more into the sustainable direction, and there are more and more initiatives, just like Legacy Tree, that are planting trees and really launching sustainable living projects. And yeah, so I'm really happy to have Journey on board with Legacy Tree, and that he's planting the legacy trees on the Croft. And I'm of course looking forward when the coronavirus measures are getting easier and easier in Scotland, and finally he can plant the trees again. Yeah, and one more question, Johnathan, how do you plant the trees? Like, is there any special kind of art of planting the trees at the Croft? Are there good conditions? Like, what do you have to compensate for? Like, what are the main secrets, let's say?
Yeah. Well, many people, the Forestry Commission has its own way of just planting trees really, really quickly, because they've got to get a lot of trees in really, really quickly. I have personally, in my heart, I have my own way. I like to use natural products like the seaweed that is on the shore Loch Eriboll is a sea loch, so you know, there's a plentiful supply of seaweed and natural resources. So I like to have a mix of that, but also use fish blood and bone, which is another fertilizer. And this, I like to, the trees I plant, I like to give them a good start and a good because it's not great soil up at the Croft. It's not, you know, it's full of rock and it's full of heavy peat soil. So it's not great for kind of growing. So I tend to have my own ways of, it's a lot of work, but I tend to have my own ways of sort of finding the natural resources. Like even if I find shells, empty shells, I kind of break them up with a stone, and
Wow.
I mix that into the seaweed as well, and then I get shingle, fine shingle, because that's what Loch Eriboll means. Loch Eriboll means in Gaelic, you know, its translation from Gaelic to English is shingle shoreline. So I use the shingle, and I use the shells, and I use the seaweed, and I use the fish blood and bone. So a mix of soup. I call it the the plant soup, you know, the tree soup, for goodness, if you know what I mean. And I put that into the hole, or that into around about the trees, you know, to give them a good start. It's the best start that I want to, so I can walk away with my heart and my head held high that I've done my best to give it the best start in poor conditions, you know. So because it's got a lot to cope with, wind, rain from every direction, and not so great soil as well. So, and I must say the results have been that every tree that I've planted has come on. You know, there's been no failures. So I stick to what works. You know, and the results show for themselves on my photos. You know.
It looks like an individual method, right? So basically like the children, when they are getting individual attention at the kindergarten, the trees at Johnny's Croft are getting individual attention, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because I've lost a lot of family members in the past through death. I feel as if the trees are my children. You know, many people have children and family members. I feel as if the trees are my children. So I give them the individual love and individual attention. And I try to teach people those ethics. And I try to showcase those ethics that I'm very, very proud of. And I'm very, very happy, you know. And they have responded in such beautiful ways, you know. Like showing me, like the rowan tree, for example, will show me so much joy, you know, with covered in flowers, and as if to say, thank you very much, Johnny. That was wonderful. So that's my thank you. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to have words. You know, just the show of flowers or the show of growth. If they don't flower, because some trees don't flower. If they don't flower, it doesn't matter. Their rate of growth and their healthy looking leaves show me, you know, in other ways, all the love that I need in my life, you know, and that's important.
Yeah, and just a quick comment from my side. Actually, this is one of the reasons, you know, this deep ethics and, you know, sustainability thinking and this deep care. This is the main reason why we are cooperating with Johnny, and he's planting the legacy trees for a legacy tree. Because basically, if you take a seed and just throw it somewhere in the soil, there is no guarantee that it's gonna survive and that it will germinate. So Johnathan is really taking care of each seed, and it's the 3-year care cycle, which basically leads to the final result that the tree not only germinates, but it survives and prospers due to this really individual childlike attention to each tree. And this is why we're really happy to have Johnny on board. Yeah, and one more question from me. What kinds of trees are you planting at the Croft, Johnny?
The kinds of trees are oak tree, Scots pine, alder, willow, eared willow, and crack willow. Also cherry, bird cherry for the birds. The reason why they call them bird cherry, not wild cherry, is wild cherry is we can pick them and eat them. Bird cherry is too sour for us. It's mostly for birds, so it's bird cherry, downy birch, not silver birch. Silver birch likes the drier soil. Downy birch likes the wetter conditions of the croft. Also alder, and also aspen, aspen, which is poplar. These are all the oak and the aspen are kind of longer term trees. They're kind of longer term to grow, more slower. The birch and the rowan and the alder are more quicker, more faster growing. So it's a whole. I've been learning the whole science of it. To plant birch and rowan first as your nurse trees. These are your first trees to improve the soil, improve the ecosystem, and improve the whole diversity. These are your faster growing trees, but there are so much benefits. But your longer term trees are your pine and your oak and your aspen. They're the slower trees. They take their time. they're not so fast at growing, and they like their certain conditions, and they don't like to be fussed up. They don't like to be fussed upon. They don't like to be. They just like to take their time. They don't like to be rushed. So they're the longer term plan. So there's a whole different science.
Absolutely. The whole science behind the tree selection,
Yeah, with the tree selection, and it's fantastic to see them and see all their different habits and how they cope with the wind and how they cope with the climate is very fascinating. And I think that humans, the community support each other. They all grow in different shapes and different ways, but they all community togetherness, talking to each other through their roots and talking and supporting each other through their branches. So it's and all coping with the wind. It's been fascinating to watch the willow tree. It grows up in a way, and then it forms a kind of ball shape, a kind of round shape, so that the wind just blows through it. So it's more stronger to stand up against the wind. So
right. It's quite windy. At Loch Eriboll, it's pretty windy.
So it's pretty windy, but the trees have their own ways of coping with that, and their own ways of their defence against the wind. So it's fascinating to watch them and watch how their different ways of coping. Bunch together and grow quite bushy, and grow quite, outward, and that seems to cope better, with the wind, so it's amazing how they can adapt themselves to all the kinds of conditions that are thrown at them.
It's just reminded me of the way we are also acting in the legacy tree. We are creating a community of people who are mutually supporting each other, and there are volunteers, there are sponsors, and there are projects where everyone can participate as a volunteer, as a contributor, as a sponsor. And by supporting each other, we are also creating a better future, a sustainable living and sustainable future for all of us, for the whole of humanity. And like every tiny step at a time really makes a difference. It's like Johnathan is taking individual care of every tree. This is the same thing, like we do one project and another one, and all together collectively we can contribute to a better future, to creating it. So Johnathan, thank you so much for your time and also for sharing behind the scenes secrets with us. So looking forward to see more of the interviews with you on the Legacy Tree, especially later on at the Croft, and the videos and photos of the growing trees. So have a great day.
Thank you, Alina, and I'm so happy to have been chosen to be leading legacy trees in Scotland. I'm so honoured and privileged to have this chance, and thank you very much, Alina, for choosing to work with me in legacy trees. It's so magical to be a part of this great, sustainable, wonderful project and idea. And I'm so happy to be involved and give my expertise. So thank you, Alina, very much, and thank you to Legacy Trees.
Thank you. So everyone have a great day and see you next time. Bye bye.